अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय। नामाचार्य विशील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तविंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप धाम की जय। सौभीत भक्तविंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled.
Basu Ghosh Prabhu ki jai. Most welcome.
Yatibhyo Namaha Maharaj.
Thank you for accepting our invitation.
It's an honor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's clear enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Prabhu will give some.
Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So we are very happy to welcome His Grace Basu Ghosh Prabhu, one of the prominent Srila Prabhupada disciple. So this is a 9-day Shravan festival. Upcoming Nrsimha Chaturdasi 25th May. So we are celebrating it for 9 days by hearing from different Srila Prabhupada disciples, sannyasis, and leaders in ISKCON. So for 9 continuous days, we will hear from different devotees on the various verses from Nrsimha pastime. So today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Basu Ghosh Prabhu for our first opening session. And I would like to just give a brief introduction about Prabhuji. Prabhuji is a Srila Prabhupada disciple who appeared in America, but whole life he served in India only. Prabhuji is a temple president of ISKCON, Baroda, and a very dear god brother of our Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami Guru Maharaj. After Guru Maharaj's departure, Prabhuji is the only one who is taking care of us in all the ways, helping us, supporting us, leading us, so that we should not lose our enthusiasm for practicing and preaching Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So we would like to welcome by chanting one time Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
One thing I want to add, the picture you are seeing behind Prabhu, here
Yes.
there is holding one small child's hand. He is actually Basu Ghosh Prabhu.
Yeah, this is
this picture is there, one small child, And
This
some
is
counting. That
right.
was supposed to be young.
This is 1976 in Hyderabad Public Garden. You can see Prabhupada is there and other devotees.
Also, I want to make another introduction. Our next to GBC, there is Supreme Authority of ISKCON, actually Bureau. Basu Ghosh is the Vice President of ISKCON India. And also, he is the General Secretary of about Ujjain. So, he's physically not here, but wherever he is, but always heart is there in Ujjain. Always is thinking about how, like the way Krishna, by reciting Golok Vrindavan, always meditate on the welfare of the conditioned soul in material world. Basu Ghosh is like that. He's always meditating the welfare of Ujjain devotees. Thank you, Basu Ghosh.
So, should I start?
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate. How did I get muted here? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Mahakaleshwaraya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Mahakaleshwaraya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narotamam.
Naram Chaiva Narotamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudhirayet.
Tato Jayamudhirayet.
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu.
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
So, before I begin the lecture on the verse, I want to inform you that a god brother in Jaipur left his body a few hours ago, Mahashringa Das. So for him, maybe we can all chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His last rites will be performed shortly in Jaipur. I think Jaipur, some people call it Gupta Vrindavan because Govindaji, Radha Damodar and Radha Vrindavan Chandra deities from Vrindavan reside in Jaipur. So on to the verse. Can you open the screen sharing?
Yes, Prabhuji. Should I share 755?
Okay, thank you. That'll be better. Oh, this is equally good for me. Shri Prahalada Uvacha Tat Sadhu Manye Suravarya Dehinam Sada Samudvigna Diyama Sadgrahat Hitvatma Patam Grihamanda Kupam Vanam Gato Yadharimashrayeta. Go to the word for word. Padapataha, reading the words. Shri Prahalada Uvacha. Prahalad Maharaj replied, Tat, that, Sadhu, very good, or the best part of my life. Manye, I think. Asura Varya, O king of the Asuras. Dehinam, of persons who have accepted the material body. Sada, always. Samudvigna, full of anxieties. Dhyam, whose intelligence. Asatgrahat, because of accepting the temporary body or bodily relations as real, thinking I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine. Hitva, giving up. Atmapatam, the place where spiritual culture or self-realization is stopped. Griham, the bodily concept of life or household life. Andhakupam, which is nothing but a blind well, where there is no water, but one nonetheless searches for water. Vanam, to the forest. Gataha, going. Yat, which. Harim, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ashrayeta, may take shelter of. English translation. Prahlad Maharaj replied, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest. One. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. A little up. Thank you. Hiranyakashipu thought that Prahlad, being nothing but a small boy with no actual experience, might reply with something pleasing, but nothing practical. Prahlad Maharaj, however, being an exalted devotee, had acquired all the qualities of education. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana, sarver gunais tatra samasate suraha, haro abhaktasya kuto mahad guna, manoratena sati dhavato bahihi. One who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. Thank you. However, he who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged in mental concoction in material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. So-called educated philosophers and scientists who are simply on the mental platform cannot distinguish between what is actually Sat, eternal, and what is Asat, temporary. The Vedic injunction is Asatoma Sadgamaya. Everyone should give up the platform of temporary existence and approach the eternal platform. The soul is eternal, and topics concerning the eternal soul are actual knowledge. Elsewhere it is said, Apashyatam atma tattvam griheshu grihamedinam. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:1-2. Those who are attached to the bodily conception of life and who thus stick to life as a grihasta or householder on the platform of material sense enjoyment cannot see the welfare of the eternal soul. Prahlad Maharaj confirmed this by saying that if one wants success in life, he should immediately understand, from the right sources what his self-interest is and how he should mold his life in spiritual consciousness. One should understand himself to be part and parcel of Krishna, and thus completely take shelter of his lotus feet for guaranteed spiritual success. Everyone in the material world is in the bodily conception, struggling hard for existence, life after life. Prahlad Maharaj therefore recommended that to stop this material condition of repeated birth and death, one should go to the forest, vana. In the varnashram system, one first becomes a brahmachari, then a grihastha, a vanaprastha, and finally a sannyasi. Going to the forest means accepting vanaprastha life, which is between grihastha life and sannyas. As confirmed in the Vishnu Purana 389, varnashram acharavata purushena paraf puman Vishnur aradhyate. CC Madhya Leela 858. This verse was quoted by Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita in his comments, or it might have been the verse itself. By accepting the institution, by accepting the institution of Varna and Ashrama, one can very easily elevate himself to the platform of worshiping Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, if one remains in the bodily conception, one must rot within this material world and his life will be a failure. Society must have divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and for spiritual advancement, one must gradually develop as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. Prahlad Maharaj recommended that his father accept vanaprastha life because as a grihastha, he was becoming increasingly demoniac due to bodily attachment. Prahlad recommended to his father that accepting vanaprastha life would be better than going deeper and deeper into grihamanda kupam, the blind well of life as a grihastha. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore invite all the elderly persons of the world to come to Vrindavan and stay there in retired life, making advancement in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. That's it. I think that's all. So I have 40 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, Prabhu, we can go up to our
Right.
turn.
Well, I'm not in a good condition and I'm also in the dark well of grihastha life, even at this old age. So in the Vedic culture, this brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas is meant for men, not for women. For women, there is only the one ashram, grihastha ashram. There is no brahmachari ashram. There is no vanaprastha, of course, because husband and wife together are supposed to do tirthyatra and, give up sense enjoyment. And sannyas means only men. And sannyas was only for brahmanas, not for kshatriyas and vaishyas. For shudras, there is only grihastha ashram. There is no brahmachari ashram. What is brahmachari ashram? It's actually Veda Dhyanam, study of Vedas and Vedic literature. Now, brahmachari in our institution, sannyasi and brahmachari are for prachar. Because the Hindus, those who follow Vedic Sanatan Dharma right from the beginning, show respect to people wearing the saffron. Sannyas meant wearing saffron. Now, someone may ask, well, why do our brahmacharis wear saffron? And the brahmacharis of other sects, Swaminarayan Sampradaya brahmacharis wear saffron. Even the big Pramukh Swami was not a sannyasi. His successor, he's not a sannyasi. They're in the first ashram, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. 4 ashrams. Varnas and ashramas are meant for men, and for women there is Sri Dharma. But now there is a cry for gender equality. That cry is worldwide, not only from the West, but in India also. And with the modern education system is teaching all of these concepts, Western concepts of morality. And those concepts of morality are based not in these teachings where Prabhupada says to follow Varnashram. Actually, the shloka, it doesn't say anything. It says Griha Andakupam, but doesn't really discuss Varnashram Dharma. In a sense, it does, because it says one should Vanam Vraje, what is it? Vanam Gataha, go to the forest. So Prahlad was telling his father to go to the forest. Prahlad became a Grihastha, and we know his son was Virochana and his grandson is Bali Maharaj, Bali Raja. In India, Bali Raja and Prahlad both are famous, but Bali is especially famous, Bali Danam. Bali Danam, give up everything, Atmanivedanam, full surrender, as Bali gave his head to Vishnu. So this is in the Bhagavatam, it's also in the Vishnu Purana, and maybe other Puranas also describe the story of Bali. So if Prahlad hadn't become a brahmachari, hadn't become a grihastha, if he remained a brahmachari and then took sannyas, we wouldn't have had Bali Maharaj, maybe. So 99.9% of the people are going to become grihasthas. Recently, one of our Ujjain devotees, who was a long time brahmachari, became a grihastha. I just got the news a few minutes ago from Vamsidhari Prabhu. So it's natural, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. We shouldn't lament if a brahmachari becomes a grihastha. If someone can remain brahmachari and be a sannyasi, it is glorious. Prabhupada said one can get liberation just by following brahmacharya. But that's not the normal course for most of humanity. It's not the normal course. Few, very few. So if one studies Vedas, and then when the whole society follows Vedas, so these concepts, these atheistic concepts, they don't become popular. But we are living in a Kali Yuga, and now the Vedic concepts are not popular. The vast majority of the Hindus, the Indians, are getting Western education, even in small towns like Ujjain. Actually, Ujjain is not a small town. It's an Upanagar, right? It's a, how do you say a small town? Lagu Grama, small town. Ujjain is not a small town, but it's like a small town. It was a very traditional place. But what's happened is there is no Raja. So Gita says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. The Rajas, they were rishis. So what does it mean when you say Raja is a rishi? Does it mean that he went to the Himalayas and did tapasya? That's what some people think. That's what some people think. When you say the word Rajarshi, then what does it mean? So what the actual, okay, who will say actual? How can I prove it to you? It's ancient system that Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas study Vedic literature, Vedic educational syllabus. Well, Krishna and Balaram did that in Avanti, Ujjain, isn't it? Sandipani Ashram. What did they study? What did they study is the question. Modern educational institutions do not teach what Sandipani taught to Krishna and Balaram. They don't. Even Bhagavad Gita was not taught by Sandipani. Later on, Krishna spoke the Gita. And in Veda Pathshalas, Gita is studied on the days when the Vedas are not to be studied. Yeah, we are not opposed to Gita. We are distributing Gita. But Gita says, Swadhyaya Bhyasanam. Excuse me. Swadhyaya Bhyasanam Chaiva. Swadhyaya means Vedadhyayanam, study of Vedas. And in Bhagavatam 10, 45, 33, 34, 35, I might have mentioned this, I don't know, last time I spoke to this group. It is described what was taught to Krishna and Balaram by Sandipani. So we should start these type of schools, I think. If we want to mold the minds to the Vedic outlook, then we need Vedic subject matter in the school. And if you teach the Western syllabus so that people can get good jobs, which is a fact, I don't deny it. See, previously the Brahmanas like Sudama, they were supported by Rajas. Well, Sudama didn't go to any Raja until he went to Krishna. But now there is no Raja. This is the main problem. Those Rajas supported this Vedic culture. India was a place of many, many Rajas. Many Rajas. Now not one is remaining. Democracy. Lucky now there is some, Hindu feelings. Hindu feelings is not a Vedic society. It's maybe the dead elephant Prabhupada described. Dead elephant is valuable, but it's not alive. Elephants, they used to be trained to do various jobs to help humanity. That's not the case now because of machines, right? Because of machines, the value of the elephant has gone away. Everything is machine, machine, machine. Everyone has to have a car, a washing machine. And for thousands of years, where were all these things? They were not there. Prabhupada wanted that type of a lifestyle. He said the best ideal system is the Indian village system. Simple living, farming, and a class of Brahmanas to teach Vedas, Upanishads, and the Puranas to the public. That was going on in India for eons, thousands of years. If you study and memorize the study, system of study was memorization. You had to memorize the mantras, and then they were all in the brain, data entry. And you could recite those mantras and explain them. And that's how the public got to know Vedic knowledge from the learned Brahmanas. If we're not doing that, then we're not fulfilling the duties of Brahmanas. And that's what Prabhupada wanted. And it's in today's purport. It's very clear there. It is very clear there. The Varnashram system. Why was he propagating this Varnashram system? So that everyone knew what they had to do. And this is in Gita 16:7. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha na jana vidura suraha. Those who don't follow the Vedic system are called asuras. Oh, that's in today's verse. Prahlad addressed his father, Asuravarya, right? Tat sadhu manye Asuravarya dehinam. Oh, king of the asuras. So those asuras, they don't want to follow the Vedic system. And that's the situation in the world today. The governments of the world, don't follow the Vedic system. So cows are being slaughtered every day, thousands. And people are eating cow's meat from slaughterhouse. And it's like drinking a glass of water now. So they weren't educated. They weren't given the proper Vedic education. They may be very proud, I'm, MABA, PhD, but their own acharan, their own behavior is, what do you call it? Papa Purna, full of sins, kukarmas. They're performing bad activities, papas. So what will be the result of that? We can only imagine. We can see that the trees are also jivas, the birds, insects, the aquatics, all different type of life forms are there. And the symptom of the life is consciousness. And sometimes that consciousness has a better facility, a better brain, a human brain. And sometimes, a dog has a brain, a cow has a brain, a camel has a brain, but the brain is, even an elephant has a brain, and they know how to look for food. And they don't cook food, for instance. Their bodies are such, they can live without cooked food. Human being needs cooked food, but not an elephant. Elephant eats much more. But there's ignorance in these bodies. Elephant, animal, other animals, birds, fish, insects, reptiles. They don't have the brain substance to understand dharma. And dharma is the first thing. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. First, learn what is dharma. What are the religious principles? Then learn how to live from that. Modern education is not dharma. It is asat and avidya. Prabhupada said slaughterhouse of the mind. He condemned modern education. How to bring the society back to the Vedic standard, the Vedic concept. Very tough task. Whole society is moving in the other way. Yantra Vidya. Learn about machines. Support the modern system of life. And in all that education, to learn Yantra Vidya, there's no Veda Vidya. No Veda Vidya. 1 second, I'm going to Jalam. So Prabhupada was asked, but we're Vaishnavas, why should we follow Varnashram system? And Prabhupada said, it is not so easy to be a Vaishnava. It's not so easy. So one has to follow Varnashram system. This is the instruction of Vedas, Gita, Acharyas. When Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed Varnashram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never condemned Varnashram. He said it's external. He didn't say that it is nonsense or it's rubbish or, it doesn't apply to our lives. He didn't say like that. This is a misinterpretation of what Mahaprabhu told to Ramananda Rai. Eho Bahiya. It is external. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to teach, the topmost Krishna Prem, but we cannot jump to Krishna Prem. And actually Krishna Prem is revealed in the heart, right? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Krishna says, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. So it's not that, we joined and now we're on the highest platform. Or even after so many years, one cannot say he's on the highest platform. I mean, Arjuna had to take many births, according to Krishna. Bahunam janmanam ante. Sorry. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavach Arjuna. Oh, Arjuna, you and I have had many janmas. Tani aham veda. I know all of them. Nat tvam veda. You don't know them. You don't remember them. So this is the difference between Nara and Narayan. We are the Naras, the ordinary human beings. And Narayana, he knows everything. Sarvagya. We are not Sarvagyas. We are taking birth again and again, so we have to study Vedic literature to get an idea. What's the proper course of life? Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, the 4 Purusharthas. We cannot attain them properly without the Vedic education. And because we don't have that, our lives are actually avaidikam, not according to Vedas. All this running around in the cars and everything is not Vedic. What is Vedic? Simple life. Simple life is described in Bhagavatam. That simple life, village life. And then when there's spare time, then you study Bhagavatam, you study Gita, Ramayana. The modern concepts, because they're opposed to the Vedic concepts, have made the world into a world of asuras, demons. The whole point here in this verse to make a distinction between the demons and the bhaktas. So unless one is a Vaidika, he may be an asura. If he doesn't follow the principles of Vedic literature, if he hasn't studied it, if he isn't living his life, if they're, eating cows, then how can they be Vaidikas? Can't be. Not possible. That's only one. There are many rules and regulations for Vaidikas, for devotees. That's why we wear, dhotis and saris, because we're Vaidikas. We follow Vedic culture, Vedic Sanskriti. That is an ancient tradition. Look at the time of Prabhupada, all the people in the picture who are devotees. Only one outsider is wearing a pant and shirt. All the devotees are wearing dhotis. But propaganda is going on, no need of a dhoti. If Prabhupada would have taught like that, if he felt there was no need of a dhoti. If you're a follower of Prabhupada, you have to wear a dhoti. You have to shave your head, put on a tilak, chant the mantras, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, how can you become an atheist? But seems to be happening. People are chanting, but they're eschewing. Eschewing means giving up the principles that Prabhupada taught and the philosophy that Prabhupada taught. And that's very disturbing. But at the same time, it isn't surprising because Kali Yuga is such a time. Kali Yuga is a time people, of course, those 4 principles of dharma. It's Satya, Dhamma, Tapa, and what's the other one? Socham. Satyam, Dhamma, Tapa, and Socham. Truthfulness, Socham, cleanliness, Tapa, austerity, and what's the 4th one? Truthfulness, cleanliness, austerity, Daya, mercy. So yeah, we are showing mercy to all the conditioned souls by preaching Krishna consciousness and by following the teachings of Vedic life. But the asuras, they're not following. They have no mercy. They kill the cows and they eat non-vegetarian food, drink alcohol. And if you do these things, if you drink alcohol, you cannot be truthful. There's no satya. If you eat non-vegetarian food, there's no daya, no mercy. What is it? Tapa socham. Cleanliness and austerity. So who's performing these things in modern society? They don't believe it. They don't believe it. So unless it's taught, this is part of the Vedic education. Unless it's taught, how will the people follow it? How will they know what is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha? The four purusharthas. How will they know? Boy, I don't know. I think I'm running out of things to say. Let's get to back to the verse then. The material world is a dark well of suffering. And now we can see with this, period of disease, people are just now, this Mahashringa Prabhu, our god brother, I don't know exactly when he joined ISKCON, but he was 74 years old. So he was senior in age. He got the COVID fever and left his body. He was suffering for a few weeks. And you all know what the position is in India is one of the hardest hit places in this pandemic. So this is the miserable material world. We all have to go. Bhakti Charu Maharaj left, Prabhupada left, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, Jasomati Nandan Prabhu. There are many we know, and we all have to go. We all know that. Now it's a question of time, somebody younger, somebody older, somebody young. Bhakti Madhurya Govinda Maharaj in Delhi, gone. So this is a period of death, but actually, according to Mahabharata, every day is a period of death. Ahanyahani bhutani, day and night, gachanti amalayam. They go to the kingdom of death. That means they leave their bodies. Shesha stavaram ichanti, and we all desire to remain here. Kim ashcharyam atav param. What is a greater wonder than this? This is in Yaksha Prashna during this Vanavas of the Pandavas. When Yudhishthira and the Pandavas came to a lake, and one by one, and Yudhishthira being the last one, the other ones all died on the bank of the lake, and Yudhishthira said, "What is this?" And Yamaraj came in the form of a bird and then took the form of a yaksha and asked one after the other questions, many, many questions. 4 of them are famous. And one of them, Kim Ashcharyam, what is the most wonderful thing? So Prahlad was telling same thing to his father in this today's shloka. We are in the Andakupam, in the material world. Somehow we accepted this material body. How we came in this body, we don't know. And we have to try and get out of it. That is the endeavor for moksha. But moksha is given by him, by Krishna. Mukunda, he gives moksha. The Guru does not give moksha. Guru takes you to him, the Lord, Krishna. And Krishna says, Dadami, what is it? Excuse me. Aham tvam sarvapapebhyaha. I will take away all of your papas. Moksha yishyami. I will free you. But if you surrender, sarvadharman parityajam hamekam sharanam, if you take shelter of Krishna. So who knows who has taken shelter of Krishna? Only Krishna knows. We can guess, we can make some guess, but who actually has surrendered? What is it? Mind, body, I'm forgetting, there's a verse like that. No, nobody can help me. Manasa Deha Geha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote, Manasa Deha Geha Jo Kichu More, Arpila Tuapade Nanda Kishore. O Nanda Kishore, O Krishna, my mind, Manasa, Deha, my body, Geha, my home, Jo Kichu More, whatever is mine, Arpila Tuapade, I offer at your lotus feet. So that's Atmanivedanam, like Bali Maharaj. I surrender everything. A devotee has to think like that. And even if he keeps things, he should use them for prachar. Just like, say, Ambarish Prabhu, who's building the big temple in Mayapur. Lots of money he has. No doubt, a lot of devotees have asked him for money, and he's given some devotees small amounts, tokens. But most of his wealth he's using to build the big temple that Prabhupada wanted in Mayapur. So this is surrender. One example of, how Manasa Deha Geha Jo Kichu More, whatever I have. So everyone has a different, lot in life, as we say in English. Everyone has more or less due to prarabdha karmas. Due to karmas, one gets Suchinam Srimatam Gehe, in the house of a rich person. Ambarish is like that. And there are others, and they are using their funds to help propagate Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Can we have some question period? Is that okay, Maharaj? Maharaj is shaking his head, yes.
Yes, time is there. Another 15 minutes is there.
Right. We can throw it open to questions and hope that it goes for 15 minutes. People can raise their hands. Electronic hand raising is available, right? You put your hand up. You saw my hand, and then you come to the top of the page. Okay, I just took my hand down. No hands. No questions.
So I have one question.
Yes, Maharaj.
You told
Thank
that
you.
Prahlad Maharaj told Bonangatajam Hari Asray. So Prahlad Maharaj never went born. So why is telling Father you should go born? I will stay in home.
Sometimes, there are some instructions in Vedic culture that, of course, Prabhupada in the purport says it's compulsory. But actually, if you study all Vedic literature and stories, and you'll find out that it's not compulsory. It's an ideal. It's the highest ideal, but we don't come up to that standard. Now, it may be said, well, then, what is our fate? If we're not perfect, how can we get moksha? That's the point. So, what we understand, if you actually are Sharanagata of Krishna, he will give you moksha. It's considered like that. I mean, everybody didn't take, in Chaitanya Leela, everybody did not take sannyas. There's no description. Like Ramananda Rai was a householder till the end, but he was one of the most confidential, disciples of devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pratap Rudra, there's no story that he went and became a sannyasi. Although kings were supposed to really take sannyas and hand over to the son, like Dasharath handed over to Rama. But that may or may not happen in every case. I was Really, it's nighttime for me, unfortunately. There was one other thing in the verse. I'm sorry, in the purport, Prabhupada quoted Asato ma jyotirgamaya. We didn't discuss that. Asataha, this material world is asat. It's constantly changing. Even if you're staying in a small village, but people are dying and new people are growing up and being born, and they have different personalities. They might be followers of Vedic culture. They might be asuras, but they see Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi applies to devotees and it applies to asuras also. Birth, death, old age, and disease. It's applying to everybody. So one cannot escape the miseries of the material world, but if he's a devotee, then Krishna will save him. Moksha yishyami, I will give you moksha. So ultimately, what we feel, that become a devotee. Manmana bhava mad bhakto, think of me and become my bhakta. So that will bestow transcendental blessings. That will bestow blessings. Like Gita says, Suchinam Srimatam, Yoga Brashta. Even if you don't complete your yoga, but you'll get a good janma. Karana Gunasangasya Sadasad Yoni. That is mentioned that according to our activities, you get a good or a bad janma. So better to get a good janma. And if you get a good janma, then you can think about sannyas. If you're born in a Brahmin family, you're trained like that to be detached and to take sannyas. That training has to be there. That's the Vedic concept training. Western concepts, they're ignorant of this, ignorant. Right, any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. There are a few questions in the chat box.
Chat window. I see 2 messages here. Oh, wow. Okay. Shudra are not meant to be in other ashram than Grihast. You also mentioned Stri only has Stri Dharma. Question. As in KC, Krishna consciousness, we focus more on consciousness. If a woman on an elevated consciousness, since in Krishna conscious family, she thinks about serving Krishna's representative husband, children, as children as part and parcels of Krishna. So she is engaged in full-time service to the Lord and detached and renounced at the same time, being Krishna-centric. So if a woman is on the elevated consciousness, can she be called on a level of sannyas or brahmachari? Not talking about any post or changing ashram, but on a consciousness level. Since Srila Prabhupada also says varnashram is more on what you do after taking birth in a particular family. So the answer here, the greatest devotees of Krishna, examples in Srimad Bhagavatam, are women. The Dvija Patnis and the Gopis. The Gopis are called the greatest devotees. And the description of what the Gopis were doing is in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. And there it's described that, they were doing Dadhi Mantan and, these grains, what do you call it? Winnowing, they call it in English, winnowing grains, getting the chaff out of the grains. The skins of the grains are removed by beating it. So the gopis were boiling milk, looking after children. They were doing grihastha dharma, street dharma. They were not big lecturers and big philosophers. There's Prabhupada can I read something to you? Boy, I have to find it. Why did I send that? No, give me a minute. Boy. In 1975, in Chicago, here in the USA, Prabhupada was interviewed by a female reporter on TV. And she asked him, you have different schools for men and women, is that correct? And Prabhupada said, yes, man is regulated to become a first-class man, and woman is regulated to become very chaste and faithful wife. Then the reporter said, there is one more question. And Prabhupada said, then the life will be very successful and marriage compulsory. So woman reporter, everyone should marry? Prabhupada, yes, every woman at least should be married. Therefore, according to Vedic conception, polygamy is allowed. Woman reporter, is allowed? Prabhupada, yes, because every woman must be married, but every man may not be married. Therefore, oh, you got that. Oh, okay, good. So if you go down, scroll down a little. So then Prabhupada says, in the history, there is no woman who is a big philosopher, a big mathematician, big scientist, big educationist. We don't find, they were all men. Then she says, well, what about women who are leaders of countries such as your own country? Prabhupada, well, according to Vedic conception, woman is never offered leadership, but experience has shown that women's leadership has not been successful. And then the reporter says, do you think Mrs. Gandhi's leadership has not been successful? And then Prabhupada replied, well, there is already trouble. There are many big men, they do not agree. Where did that go? They do not agree with her. And she has taken emergency steps. So on the whole, the country is in trouble. Then she said, what about Mrs. Meir, president of Israel? She was prime minister, not president, by the way. I did not say of any particular woman, but according to Vedic civilization, we have never seen in the history that woman has become a leader. And the woman reporter, women have been leaders. And Prabhupada's reply, they were not selected. The leader, formerly it was monarchy. The monarchs were selected by the advisory board of the first-class men, the Brahmanas. So they never selected any woman to become leader of the society. Anyway, there's much more than this. And that's just a part of the discussion. So because the question was, you know, women, if they come to a higher level. So in Gita, Krishna says women can get moksha. He says they're a papa yoni. It's a sinful birth, but they can get moksha, right? Mam hi partya vyapashritya ye pisyu papa yonayaha. Even if one is born in a sinful family, striyaha, women, vaishyas tata shudras, tepi yanti paragatim. They are lower, but they can attain the highest destination, moksha. So it's not like the greatest devotees of Krishna were women, the gopis and the Dvijapatnis, but they didn't engage in the activities of men. That's the point. In the Varnashram system, the men are the Brahmanas, the men are the Kshatriyas, the men are the Vaishyas, the men are even the Shudras. It's the women have their own Griha Dharma, Grihastha. staying in the home, looking after children, grandchildren, cooking, cleaning the house. It was a simple concept and a simple life. But because this gender equality is so popular, so even our devotees have become enamored, gender equality. They didn't listen to Prabhupada. That's what it means. There's a question. Please, what is the valuable teaching we learn as brahmachari? The valuable teaching is not to become overly attached to your wife, but we become attached. Okay, next. Prahlad Maharaj was very humble in dealing with his father, who was a non-devotee. In a devotee's life, in a devotee's life, dealing with non-devotees is a very common thing. Sometimes mind tricks me when I am very strict to myself for following the 4 regulative principles, mainly waking up early because the lifestyle many times waking up early because the lifestyle many times doesn't allow to sleep early due to family responsibilities. How to not get demotivated by these things and control mind? The simple answer is to keep chanting Hare Krishna in every circumstance. Then, Hare Krishna, thanks for wonderful class. This verse perfectly suits your personality. You joined Prabhupada immediately at such a young age. And when gradually we can't think of anything like spirituality, there was no such pushing. There was so much pushing you to and inspiring. Thank you. There's even another couple questions, but it says here, what about those women who were tortured and life threatened and had to leave street dharma to save life? Yes, for saving your life, you can give up everything. For saving your life. That is a fact. Okay. Is that okay, Prabhu? 1 hour is over somehow or other.
Yes.
I hope I didn't put everyone to sleep. I myself am falling to sleep. What can I say? And I took a nap in the afternoon. I have 3 meetings tomorrow, right from early morning, 6 o'clock. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Okay then.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Radha Madan Mohan. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra. Jai Prahlad Nrsimha, Gaurnitai, Sandipani Muni, and Samaveta Bhaktavrinda, Ujjain Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for taking out your time and sharing with us your reflection on this verse 755. So we are looking forward for more of your association, at least online. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. At last, there is one announcement for all the devotees regarding upcoming sessions. So this is the 9-day celebration where different Srila Prabhupada disciples, sannyasis, and ISKCON leaders are going to share on different verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. So tomorrow we'll be hearing from His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj. So we seek all of your association. Thank you very much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nrsimha Chaturdashi Maha Mahotsav ki jai. Iske Basu Ghosh Prabhu ki jai.